Yeah. Did we get any feedback yet from any translators? We got to get that out, I guess. I'll ask on my timeline,
Okay.
how it is translating in the other languages.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conscious Talk TV. I'm your host, Linda Summers. And we have Rick Jewers again tonight. And the topic is the financial institutions and governments, the real truth. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Rick to the show. Hey, Rick.
Hi, Linda, everyone. Thank you again for being here. And we're having so much fun and we keep advancing. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So, and thanks for everybody who's joining us. When you come on, I will mute you and I will take off the video. It's too distracting to do the show and have the videos going. At the end of the show, we will have Q&A that we will open up, and I will unmute your mic so that if you have a question, that you can ask Rick, and guys can converse back and forth, and he can ask more questions of you. And we are on 5 different languages: Arabic, Chinese Simplified, Hindi, Russian, and English. So we are going to try and do our best to slow our speech to make sure it does come across. So if you see some odd words there, well, we're just doing our best. So this is the second time we've used this platform. Hey, Rick?
Yes, and it keeps getting better every time. So
Yeah.
We'll get it to perfection if it needs to be perfect.
Yeah. It seems so far so good. So, and we'd like to get any feedback from you guys too, as far as the translation. If that's helping out for you, that would be great as well. Awesome. Okay. Hey, Rick, we wanted to start with the what you guys saw last night after the show.
Oh, okay. Just give me a moment. I'm going to turn the light a little bit so I'm lit up a little bit more.
Okay. All right, Rick's going to light himself up. Hey, everybody that's just now tuning in, welcome. Glad to have you here. As I mentioned, we will be muting everybody out until the end of the show. If you have a question, one question at a time, and then I will find your name and I will unmute you so you and Rick can have a conversation. We are going to try and keep our speech articulated and to the precise of what we're trying to say, because this is voice to speech. So this is kind of exciting. So hope you guys love this platform. We certainly do. We're loving it right now. So, all right. Rick is back and he is lit up.
Woo!
Yes.
Okay. See if the viewers can see this diagram. Hold it. I'll put something in behind it.
Okay.
So I'm going to be sharing. Okay.
Yes.
So what I'll show what it is this is a crown. Okay. And this is a tube that goes up to the Father. You see how I have it shaded in. Now, last night, after we were done the show, I went outside with another angel, Helen here. We were going to have a smoke. And this, what you see here, was illuminated on the outside of this wall. So we were outdoors. So this wall right in this area, and about the same size as this appeared. It was white light. This is the image that appeared. And I know it was a symbol for I, but also for Helen to witness it. And it was only there for a few moments. And I was saying to Helen, we were both thinking the same thing, because we had the telepathy about getting a shot of it. And then we looked up, boom, it was gone. So more or less, no, we could not take a picture of it. But, as you're seeing, I'm allowed to share it now. So, I always do receive a lot of signs, and as I said, I do know what my connection is directly to God, and they happen regularly, but this certain one for me as well, and perhaps an indication of the ascension and how far we have come with that, to have that certain symbol appear at this time. I will say for all of us, it is very significant and is indicative of the huge advancement here. And the host, Danny, that has, provided this accommodation for I to do these interviews with you, her incredible individual advancement is so impressive as well. And I wish to share that since last evening to today, she has just advanced incredibly into another stage of her development. And for I have all the gifts, but I usually generally only use some of them here. And one is the empathic gift. And just since last night, as part of that, I can now I don't even need to think of it, be closer to her, and I can feel her energy upgrades, what occurred. Now, having said that, I know it's not only within Daniela herself that I know more of you have been upgraded, and we are well aware of this actual process that it is occurring, and we do know that. So having said that, I'm just so very happy and grateful from Father Divinity, our Galactics, and for that most important sign last night. There's no refuting it nor denying it, and it's not illusion. Helen and I, we both saw it and looked at it, with a little bit of awe, and with also the energy being emanated from it. It's divine. So good. I just wish to share that with everyone.
Oh, well, thank you. That was so beautiful. That would have been beautiful to see, just the crown. And, we're sons and daughters of a king. So, definitely, that's awesome. That's so beautiful.
Indeed, some of these analogies, we are indeed, all kings and queens, and we are all gods and goddesses, and all of that is very true. And part of this journey is owning that. That's what takes you to higher levels, when you own it and when you speak your truth, saying, hey, I know I'm not Rick anymore. I know that I am a creator. I know that I am, perhaps I am Merlin, because you know this, because you can connect with that energy. And when you do that, for instance, I love Merlin. Him and I have some amazing times together. And but I will say that I'm also Merlin, because I am connected and I am one with Merlin. But this is the same as each of you. The more you own it and allow it there with you, you become that. Like, Archangel Michael. Yeah, there's ones here that are Archangel Michael in human form. And when we look at the Christ, all of us, all of you are Christ. We are all Christ, because we are one with that, and we are all God because we are one with God. And it's, it is totally amazing. It's not fictional. It's not an illusion. It's very real. So, and beautiful. And and another thing with this, it would not be occurring in this time if it's not so. If it wasn't important, this would not even be happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll stop there.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because it was awesome. It's good to hear that and good to see that as well. So where I kind of want to go first is your story of how you came into, you said you talked a little bit about it, your awakening in a few of the interviews, but because tonight's talk is about the financial institutions, the government, and all that stuff that is really a lie, and we're going to talk about the real truth. So can you kind of begin with yourself and what was occurring before you were awakened somewhat, and then when you did awaken, please?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Bear with me and stop me if I get rambling.
No, never. It's
I'm
always
going
good.
to try to shorten and simplify and condense the story as much as possible, because in reality I could write about 6 books on it. So quite an experience, and a lot of detail with it, and the places I went. I guess you could call it the rabbit hole, but I like to say it was before the rabbit hole that I was just entering down in, seeing all of this ridiculous stuff, trying to figure it out from a human perspective. Keep in mind, I was not awakened then. I was just human. I was oblivious to what I am, and I had no clue what was happening. And yeah, so so essentially, very quickly, I had a couple businesses. I was a fishing boat captain, and had my own vessel and a couple of those. But what had happened is that I become very physically sick, and what it did, it prevented me from being on fishing vessels. Part of the sickness, what did it, was what you would call vertigo. And the type of vertigo I had is that I could not stand any motion, any movement. And when you're on these fishing boats, you're on an ocean going everywhere,
Yes.
And the vertigo that I had, I could not even sometimes drive on a dirt bumpy road. I would have to stop, because the more that I tried to fight against it, the sicker I would come, and it would shut me down. And I know now it was all divinely orchestrated to get me positioned into the timelines. But then, I was looking at it as I was a human. I was very sick, wondering what I'm going to do next. How am I going to support my family? And if you look at it this way, the head of a household, I had responsibilities, and part of me was, trying to provide for my family, but also, being very prudent and diligent with the money, and try to build it to the best of my ability. So, I'm a kind of a guy, before I was awake, and nothing keeps me down. You could say I had the stubbornness there also, that I would never give up. I would always feel or think there was a way.
Yeah.
So having said that, what I began to do is, before I become sick, I had come into some more money that was left from my physical dad. And what I wanted to do, the direction came up, to invest it and let it build. Which, yes, that's what I was about, because we're looking forward for our retirement. And my idea was for my 3 children, to give them each a house, and get them set up good in life. So I worked hard 18 hours a day, and to have all of this. So I was in, that programming, in the illusion, thinking that, this is the way it is. This is life. You work and you make this money. You try to build up your big retirement. And I didn't know there was a choice.
Yes. Yes.
And so nevertheless, what I did is I began investing money, and I would watch the stock markets, because I am back then, I still am, to some respects, but I was a very logical, scientific person as well that would access every bit of information I could to assist me in becoming better and better, in my knowledge, and also, to be a much more better benefactor to my family and to myself. So I would not, I would watch everything, and I'd be very prudent. So having said that, we invested some money. We put it into, I'm trying to, a fund we had put it into that was, the word just escaped me, the certain type we put it into.
Was it a
But
401k?
I split it up. Pardon?
A 401k?
No. We are in Canada. Up here,
Oh.
our options were like RSP
Okay.
or what have you. But what I put this into was anyways, the term is irrelevant. We took the money and we began setting up 2 investments that we kept it in 2 places, not one, right? And, that is one of the things with investing. You need to be, you don't put all of your eggs in one basket. So, you always got good options. That was one of the things you're taught with investing and being a responsible investor.
Yeah.
Am I still here, Linda?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just said my, so having said that, we invested it. I would keep watching on the stock markets because the certain investments we were in, they were directly connected to the stock market activity, meaning that if the stock market went up and kept going up, so should have our funds.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching it for a year or two, what I began to find out is that that there was one certain fund that as the stock market kept going up, we were losing money on this. Now there's what you call merit fees and other little things, but what I had noticed is that the amount that we lost on the investment was a huge amount when you compared it to the stock market incline. It was not making sense. So what that did is, I said, geez, I don't kind of trust this. It's not making sense. So what I did is I become sick around that time. So I said, I'll take care of finances myself. And so I drew the money out of those financial investment vehicles we had, and I got it in one pot, and then I set up to do online trading myself. And what I did, I was very prudent entering the markets. I did not gamble all my money. I would put a little bit in and feel things out and learn how it works. Mm-hmm. And to cut a long story short, I learned so much very quickly, and I did it the most efficient way, and not leaving any little aspect out. I would even go into understanding how the whole markets worked. And at first I began to find, I was still trading, but what I began to find is that there was certain influences and controls upon the market that were not by chance, and it was not by sentiment of the market which they use, that there was actually a control, something else going on. Nevertheless, I felt that there was corruption, but what I had well versed and knowledge myself in every aspect of the market, that I knew I could maneuver above anyone else that was getting ripped off that didn't know this. And I knew that I could follow the big money into being more successful. I had learned myself, knowing how the markets moved, how they worked, and the dynamics of them, to make the biggest profits. So what occurred with that, at the same time, I loved mining stocks, is what I got into. And So at the same time, you know, I found out, okay, I'm into mining stocks, but then they put out news releases, um, you know, and I said, wow, there's a lot of stuff I need to know about that news releases. They're putting out, you know, gold grades, many different things that they do. And I said, I wish to be able to read and understand news releases because, you know, it depends on what that news release says, what was going to happen with the stock, if it's going up or down, or if it's worthwhile staying in there. Um, so I began to learn geology on my own um, very quickly in my spare time. And I began looking into the industries and the markets. I said I was going to condense this. Yeah, so I'm going to start leaving a lot out. Sorry. I just get carried away. Uh, okay, but okay, to shorten it up right at this point, yes, I was well versed. I learned that. And then during my learning, I began to see some things that happened within the market that would suggest fraud in some stocks. And I watched how that played out, and I watched how the regulators up in Canada, you know, we have 12 regulators, I believe it is, or 13 now, it doesn't matter. But regulators are responsible what they say and what they promote, and they are government regulators. They promote that they are there to protect investors and to maintain a fair market. So to keep it simple, blah, 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 over time, we come to find out that, you know, these regulators, that many investors, you know, had problems. They were getting robbed, losing a lot of money, and it was blatant, it was fraud. So they were asking these regulators for help to do the work. But what was happening is that the regulators more or less were coming back and said, we see no fraud. So it became very blatant, and this is still ongoing, and it'll be part of tearing down the financial system, not only in Canada but worldwide. But yeah, and so having said that, you know, it become very clear for many investors and many more even today. And up here in Canada, you look at Alberta, that's one of the provinces where, you know, is very rich because of the oil, that there are just so many investors. But if you were to go and take a poll of all those Albertans over the years, you're going to find that investment after investment, they lost millions, if not billions of dollars, and that the amounts of people are incredible. And the same thing, there will be someone like in this investment, they will form a group, they're told to go through channels of the government to get justice. But what happens every time, pretty well, they are squashed, and the government's agencies, which are the regulators and such, say they don't see nothing wrong. And in our particular I was in one stock and I read geology and I can read it, and I know this was an amazing gold find. This would be something, if your viewers are familiar, um, it had the potential of what Bre-X was. Bre-X was put off as a scam, but what I will say on this show, I spoke in voice to the head geologist of that many years after. And what he told me, he said, Rick, the gold was there. And he said, I'm not saying anything else. But what had happened, they exiled him to South America somewhere, and they made up this huge fictitious story that this gold find wasn't real. So people lost a bunch of money. Then they said it was a scam. But what actually had occurred with this is that this gold mine is in Burma or in Indonesia. Um, and what actually occurred, it was a huge gold find, but it was covered up. And this was something like the same sort of a stock that I got in. But again, to leap forward with the investment that I was in, you know, I did all my geology, all my homework, did everything. This was a sure thing.
Yeah.
It had to be. There was nothing that could the investment I was in say it was a lie. However, that's the way it was delivered. So good enough. So, you know, we lost our money, and but there was a huge story behind that where it's just amazing as well, because it's where I found out about, let's say, how the banks and the governments, because of what I started putting out on an online message board where many investors watched, I started putting out more of the truth, what was actually going on with the banks, and you know how it was all corrupt. And I become a target at that time. I did not know it at first, but it did not take very long to know that it was a target, because my phones started to become hacked, my computer, and lots of weird things would happen around me. And at that time, I was still trading, and you know, I was a very successful trader up to that time. But then, using everything that I knew, my bets in trading against all odds and what the way a market is supposed to function were going backwards. At first, I would go into a stock. I knew it had to go up. All the fundamentals, I knew how it worked. But what I would see was mainly when I would go into a stock, I would see RBC mostly wash trade the stock and bring it down that I was in and force me out of.
Wow.
And what it, and the thing was, I was using a trading platform from RBC. That was my bank. So it was very obvious that, and I knew they were in my bank accounts as well, but it was much bigger than that, where I saw on the open TSX, you know, the Canadian stock market, mostly where I traded, what I was seeing is the stocks I went into, anytime I went in there, it would be RBC that would hit the stock by wash trading and knock it down very quickly, force me to lose money or to force me out of the stock at a loss. So I tested it a few times, and every time, yes, it was RBC.
Wow.
So I'm saying, you know, it's not someone hacking my computer. It's not anyone that is, you know, bad guys. It's not that. I said it is the bank themselves, because it is the traders at RBC that was doing it, and it became very obvious. And so I began, you know, to put out more of the truth. But it was not only me; there were other investors who were seeing it. A good friend of mine at that time, he was making a huge trade of $60,000, or no, maybe it was a lot more than that. He said, "Rick, watch what happens when I make this trade." And so he did. And what we were seeing is that he made the trade with so many shares to sell them, but they actually vanished. They did not show up anywhere. So we were collecting all kinds of evidence, and of so many illegal things with the markets. And again, trying to jump forward, we took this. You're told in society, you know, you have all these bureaucracies and agencies of governments to protect the public interest.
Right.
And, you know, they said, here's the route you go through, right? So we went through them all. We went through the regulators. We went through the politicians up here, the Minister of Finance, you know, the Minister of Justice even. We had to go to the Minister of Justice with some of our papers, some of our concerns, because it became very clear that in the Minister of Finance department, things were corrupt or something. And with the regulators, even the public safety minister here in Canada, you know, we were asking for assistance from them at the time with this. Stephen Harper was the prime minister up there, and we even put letters right to the top. So we did everything that you could imaginably do, and we had the RCMP investigating it, and so it was very interesting that with the RCMP investigation, they would not give us a report. They took 18, I believe it was 18 months to investigate. And then under applicable Canadian laws, under the Freedom of Information Act up here, we wanted, what the RCMP had found in their investigation, because we wanted this, because what the RCMP told us after an 18-month investigation, that there wasn't enough to pursue, any criminal activity against the owners of this company we were in. They, they had took the evidence to the Crown prosecutor, and the Crown prosecutor said there's not enough to go forward with this. However, what we uncovered, and it should have only took less than 6 months to uncover the police report. What happened is that there was a lot of stalling going on, and outside of the guidelines and part of the law, we did not receive that report until about 18 months later, which was, there was all kinds of weird things going on. We had an ombudsman in there. He coincidentally got shifted to another location. It became very obvious that the government and everything with what we were uncovering wanted to keep it sealed, because any time also we had went to the medias with this, we said we got a huge story here. But okay, I'll get back to the RCMP anyway. So with the RCMP, we get parts of their report, through the Freedom of Information Act, but a lot of it is blacked out. But one thing they didn't black out, and the RCMP report says this, that this is fraud. What happened?
Yeah.
And so very quickly, you see that, whoever wrote up the report within the RCMP was a good person to show it was fraud. And they said it right in their report. And I mean, how much do you need to see that it could not go to court? So it became very blatant what was going on. And this is also with us for anyone in the markets. This was also connected to Barrick Gold, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. We had the big leagues of the planet were doing this, and also the USA at that time, Obama as well, was in on this, and there was lots going on. But again, during a course, we tried every avenue that we could. We even tried to go, to the news media and to the public, to get out to the public our story, like, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
The government's supposed to protect you. They say they're there to protect the public interest, but what we had uncovered is that, that no, they were not. Actually, they were assisting in keeping this covered up. And so we went to the medias. We began writing letters to CBC up here in Canada, and some journalists we had to go to later, but we tried the big medias first. With a couple of the medias, or the more prominent voices, their first response was, yeah, we're excited, this is huge, it's a big story. So, then we'd start giving them more of the information, and they would be excited, because you have journalists or news, ones that do the news stories. They identify, that's their job. They identify it immediate that it's a big story. So we get this, and it happens several times. The big medias up here get excited. Then all of a sudden, we send more information, and we had set up through emails. Then there's nothing, and we wait for a few weeks, and we don't hear back. So then finally, we get in touch with them, and what CBC said. This was interesting in an email, and we have this somewhere. We say we documented everything. Am I still here?
Yeah,
okay.
You're still here.
So with CBC up there in Canada, what they send back is an email saying that we do not have the resources nor the personnel to give this story the justice it deserves.
Oh,
Now, we're looking at one of the biggest medias here
yeah,
in Canada, and
yeah.
they're just saying
They don't have the resources.
it's so huge that they couldn't do anything with it. It was, it's just totally absurd. So, but it became very clear that the media, that they were silenced. It
Yeah.
becomes so obvious, right? Because we did not only see it from one media, we contacted several. And it was also so interesting that out of these several medias, what I had just said verbatim, their message, there were a couple that were almost identical, showing us very clearly that there was a much huger cover-up that had contact and perhaps even intimidate the ones in these medias to not take the story. That's how big it was. But and it's still, a bit of it is still ongoing. We keep testing the politicians there, and not only with this investment thing, but with others as well. Like currently, there's everything's ready to collapse up here, and it's just the white collar crime. All of that is really, within the governments and all of this. But what Trump is doing there in the U.S. with these indictments, what he will be unsealing, a part of this vindicates, all of this huge global crime. And a lot of it is connected to Canada, the stock markets, the politicians, the governments, the same as what Trump has, for down there. When you get Trump coming on saying, to the public, Hillary is a criminal, he must have pretty good evidence to back that up, he's telling you. And he's also telling you, I love, again, the other night what Trump said about the fake news. He's saying you guys are fake, and more or less saying, the alternative news, what they labeled the conspiracy theorists, are actually the real news. They are the truth. So a beautiful transition is occurring. And, when you have a public figure or a president like Trump, acting much the same as what John F. K. did with this, it is real. None of this is fictional. And and a friend of mine with Trump just today, I believe Pelosi or something was going somewhere, and I believe he was going to go on an executive flight, and Trump said, no, you got to go on a commercial flight. There's not much money here. So somehow I believe Trump intervened and, put her on a commercial flight. So that was a comical thing to mention that my friend shared with me. But, more so showing that Trump does have the power. He is backed as part of this transition to effect what we're doing in tearing down the governments.
Yeah. I want to go back to when you were ill. So what was the transition that kind of happened for you that really got you to awaken, that you dove more in and really just found out, because you had all the information about the banks and stuff like that, but, like the IRS and, credit cards are tied into the banks as well. So that kind of ends into that. But where was the transition when you were sick? So what happened with that?
Well, what occurred, I become very sick, but when I was right at my rock bottom, just before I awakened, after I was under surveillance and I knew it, and, they intimidated me pretty blatantly several times on the computer, not in direct personal contact, but they just kept showing me that they were watching me, and that they had everything tapped, and it got very, very dark and deep. I kept trying to fight against it to get the truth out, and that's when I become a target. And I was in a wild car chase, and a lot of things happening, from Army and Navy against me. It was just a very surreal James Bond movie at its highest is what really occurred with me. But having said that, during being, attacked, I was more or less one guy. uh, I had give up, and that was where I was at. I knew everything was corrupt. All of my money was at stake. I took quite a bit. It was the life savings I had. That was hit, and I had very little of it left. So after not sleeping for about 4 days and being chased and all kinds of weird, very dark stuff happening, I went home. And I was interested in geology, so I wanted to go into. I had some land claims in Nova Scotia, so uh, not land claims, sorry, mineral claims. I was prospecting and learning what I'd learned about geology online. I was then applying it in the field and, creating a broader understanding that if I was, so sick that perhaps I could be a geologist or whatever, or find, my own minerals. But having said that, so after I was attacked, I gave up. I looked at it. I said, I'm one guy here against, like I said, this is nuts. Like what I was attacked by was Army and Navy, 70, 100 vehicles, maybe more. They were in unmarked cars, but their crew cuts and their attire really was not. It was very blatant what they were. All of them were crew cut. But having said that,
Uh-oh, you froze. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can type it into him. Sorry, guys.
everything
Oh,
I
there
was.
he is. You froze up. I was just going to send you a message. You said, haven't said that, and
Oh,
you froze up.
oh, where was I at when I
You just
froze
said,
up?
oh, well, you had been chased by Army, Navy, 70, 100, weren't sure, but yeah. What did you, that's where you left off.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was in the chase. So what I did is I'd give up. I was one man, and
Yeah,
after being, it was nuts, right? What I was witnessing, like it was just something you never thought. It just wasn't real,
yeah,
but it was. But from the state, I was human then, and I was unaware of all of the corruption and everything that we know now. So, I was saying it's nuts, but I said I'm one man, and I said, here's all these thugs, more or less took everything I had, but then I come to find out banks are involved and governments and law enforcement and all of this. That's was quite a thing to put on a person all at once. My whole way of thinking and about this world just flipped
yeah,
180 degrees very quickly. And, there's times that with that, I question my sanity and everything from the human respect. I did not know what I was then or who I am. I did not know then. I was only human. And anyone could identify and imagine when you think you're just a human here and something like that happens, which is crazy. It's quite a huge adjustment,
you're
especially
freezing, you're freezing up.
when it happens. But again, to cut the story, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a little
Can
bit.
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, but am I translating here?
Yes.
Okay, I
No, you're
just
not. No, you're not.
yeah.
I've
Okay,
got,
let me check something.
sorry, guys. Say something, Rick. Maybe it's going to come.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's not recording. It's only recording me.
Yeah. Okay.
Garnett will check into it. He's on here, so
Pardon?
Garnett will probably check it. He's on here. They were checking it as we were going live tonight anyway.
Okay. Okay. Should I continue? Just let me check here again.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for holding on. Sorry, Daphne, that you weren't able to connect to your audio tonight. She's not here now. This is what happened last night, but I don't know how far we were into it.
Okay. Just hold on. Might be Garnet. Okay. Give me a moment, Linda. I'm going to log out and come back on. Just give me, I'll stay here, but I got to do something for a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Again, we'll open up Q&A after Rick kind of goes over finishing up with his story. And then he'll share a little bit of information of what he's found with the governments, the financial institutions, which, as you've heard, he's been mentioning that they're all in cahoots, all of them, and it's not for our benefit. It's for the benefit of them. So there's a lot of corruption going on. So if you guys have questions, think about those now so that when we get to the end of the show, we go into Q&A, that you've got those ready, and then I'll pick those up on the group chat, and then I will unmute you so you can have a conversation with Rick. And hopefully we can get Rick back on here with translation.
Okay.
Okay, you said something. What did you say here?
Did anything translate? Am I back on? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay,
You're
thank you, Garnet. Yeah, I got knocked out of there a little bit. Okay, you know, I'm getting really, Linda, I was getting off onto my story quite a bit. Yeah, I believe, you know, we got to,
Yeah.
But I gave, you know, the viewers a little bit of my background of how I come, you know, to know that everything was corrupt. But what I do wish again to share this important, very quickly, this important part. So I come to the point, knew everything was corrupt, was attacked. They tried to kill me, but they couldn't. I didn't know why until, you know, later when I awokened. I cannot be killed. But anyways, having said that, I was still human, and I went back in the woods to one of my one day to just after I got attacked. The next day following, I went way into nature. I drove a long ways, and it was on that drive, 20 minutes into it. I had to drive 40 minutes into old woods roads to get back to the location. 20 minutes into it, you know, I was still human, and I looked up out of the side of my window at the sky, and, you know, I said, God, if you're real, I said, I need to know. I said, because what just happened, I said, you know, there's, well, I said, I need to know if you're real, because really this should not be happening. You know, I put it more or less. So I said, God, you know, I said, I'm about one of the worst skeptics that you ever could have, you know, if you're real, God. And I said, it's going to take a lot to convince me. And I said, you know, I have no choice where I'm at. I said, with this, I said, if you're real, I ask to be shown that. So I said that with sincerity from my heart. I continued on driving for another 20 minutes. And, but I had also asked him to show me on that day. I needed to know at that time. And so I drove for another 20 minutes, forgetting I had ever asked that, Linda, because I was asking it from a state where I didn't believe. I was an atheist. And so, I just forgot all about it. But to cut a long story short, after the end of about 5 hours in that day, there were several impossible things happened. And, I, and it was nothing, it was not illusion or anything with my mind, the things that had occurred. It was very obvious that there was nothing wrong with my mind the way they occurred. And I know Father must have had a great laugh with that, because I was not even thinking that he did it, that divinity did it. I was just saying, like, what's this weird stuff? How is this happening? And it took 3 major events, but by the end of the day, it was all overcast. And I was walking out from the last location where I was looking for gold, and the light bulb went off. That I remembered that I had asked God to show me that he was real, right? And what I did is, it was all overcast sky. And I'd watched, and what was funny too, I'd watched the weather report, looked at it before I left the house that day. Over the whole 3 maritime provinces was nothing about, it was all sun. But when I got back to the location that day, it was all overcast and a mist and things happening, which was, I thought it was kind of odd, but, the weatherman sometimes is not correct. But I know now that that was orchestrated as well. But when the light bulb went off, that, God had did these things to show me the impossible things, then I looked up. I said, God, you are real, aren't you? And when I did that, a fully overcast sky, a portal opened in the sky with the sun shining right down on me, like this light right now, right on me, right around. And that began, and I said, I'm glad, God, you're real. Now I got a chance, and there is something I can do. And I said, I thought I was here alone. I didn't know what to do. So that began it. And, then very quickly I was learned it on all the corrupt ways of the governments upon the planet, all the tyranny, all the way things really were working here and what was actually going on. And I needed to know all that. Then I was given my memory back, also of who and what I actually am, other than this human vessel. And and boom, 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 brings us right up to this now. So there we go.
So in saying all of that, finding out the institution, so it's all digital, it's all money. We've got the RVs, we've got the quantum financial system that's coming into play. So we know that all of that's corrupt. But the thing is, that what people don't know is that we've been led, like we talked about last night for a little bit. We've been programmed to, that this is what it is. You pay your taxes, you have a credit card, you pay your credit card, you have a mortgage, you pay your debt, the whole thing. And what you're saying is all untruth.
Well, it is, and it's absolutely preposterous and ridiculous to the fullest extent to really look at upon the planet, the financial systems, and to really, we touched on this on last night's show, if you look at this thing as debt, and to get the good look at it, you want to go way outside of the box. You don't want to be on the planet looking at money and debt and all this. What you got to do is go away from the planet and just look down on the whole world with this big debt of trillions of dollars. They say this is world debt. And some have put this out, which is very good, the way they depict it in posts you've seen on Facebook or what have you. Who is this debt owed to? Which is very interesting. And it's the most excellent question for anyone to ask. Who do you owe this debt to? So, meaning that there's no one you owe this debt to. So then Does it matter if it's 1 trillion or if it's to infinity?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Where you created an illusionary debt, which is something is an illusion, it does not matter if that illusion is $100 or 100 trillion bucks. It does not matter. Meaning that if you were able to create a debt like that and enslave the people because of an imaginary debt, that means you also had the common sense and the ability to just keep printing money for everyone without any debt.
Yes.
The governments and everything upon the planet just could keep printing money for everyone and share it. So why didn't they do it?
Right.
They chose to enslave everyone. So very quickly, that shows you it was intentional. Now, each one of the viewers, anyone watching this, you know that if you were a prime minister or a president of the country to wipe out sickness, poverty, and all of this, you would not let money stand in the way. I mean, you could print money to infinity because debt doesn't matter. It is an illusion. So why would anyone only print enough money but leave it on the planet and give it to these wealthy ones while the rest of the world are their slaves? You know, it clearly shows you from that level that it's all ill intent. So by looking at it like that, you take the global economics, it's all set up and designed to do that, to keep everyone enslaved with imaginary debt. So at a stroke of a pen and the blink of an eye, as I said before, the world's problems can be solved that quickly. It's this ridiculous debt that they created, which is an illusion. They can create the opposite of illusion of giving everyone the money. You don't need the economy. What you have is you have people that while they're enjoying the human experience, you know, they're not going to go and stay just laying around in the sun all the time. There are ones that want things to do. And these would be, you know, your inventors to carry things on. You do not need a system the way you have it. And actually, it is the governments and the global elites that cause all the sickness, disharmony, and enslavement upon the planet because they are keeping them controlled by an illusion of debt. And when people say, oh, I got debt, when they consent to it, they are actually keeping it alive for their slave masters.
Yeah.
And this is what's breaking down. More of the people, you know, they're stopping now. Just it only takes a moment to stop and think, yeah, society is ridiculous. It didn't have to be that way. It only takes a minute to think that in a stroke of a pen, everyone's problems around the planet can be eradicated in the blink of an eye. Poverty wiped out in a flash. It can be done that easy, where they can print money and create debt to trillions of dollars. And they say the world owes it to someone, but if there's no one that the world owes it to, it doesn't matter if it's $100 or hundreds of millions or trillions, gazillions. It does not matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you know, I think there's a fear based of, you know, you've got this debt because we don't know if there's no other options, there's other choices, right? And that's the thing is I don't think people know that they have other options available to them because there's a fear, you know, like I told you before, I've talked to many people about not paying their taxes. And they're like, there's no way they'd come and take you off with handcuffs because there's, you know, you're not paying your taxes. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's such an important point, Linda. As you were saying, yes, like you know, when I mentioned when I was human, I didn't think I had a choice.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I had a choice until, you know, with me, the day then when I knew God was real, and then I was given more information, what the choices were, then that changed everything. But yeah, I was not informed. None of your governments or your mainstream medias or anything would give this to you,
Of course.
this information that you did have an option. But also, they would not teach this in schools to the children in economics, how really it is preposterous. Like what I just said, very simply, any school student, if they would have just listened to what I said about the illusionary debt, they're so intelligent that they know right away that, yeah, there is something wrong with this society. But many of them know more, and this also leads you into things like ADHD and all of this, what society wishes to say is wrong with the children. That's not what's wrong at all.
Yeah.
The children know that this stuff is ridiculous, and they don't even want to go to school to learn history that is manipulated, to learn economics that is manipulated, and even science that was manipulated to fit a certain agenda and a program to keep them controlled. The children today are smart. We have so many crystal children here, and their degrees of intelligence it's above anything yet. Their IQs are just totally high.
Yeah.
But getting back to the option thing, yeah, the ones, if they're not what we call awakened, they don't know that there is another option.
Right.
But what's currently happening is that we are in the times of the Great Awakening. And every day you are seeing more and more that are getting fed up, that they begin to awaken, and they find the alternative medias that's got more of the truth out there. And these alternative medias has, the documentation showing you everything you want to know. If you doubt that the governments are corrupt and the banks and the elite, well, hey, you want to take the time and do your research. Alternative media there are so many sources that has the actual documents where you can read it, and it is very real. But not only that, what Trump is doing now is beginning to reveal to the world through these indictments just how deep it went.
Yeah.
So it's not fictional, and no one can deny it nor refute it. However, again, the masses that are beginning to awaken, they need all of this information, like what we be putting out, Linda, but what many others have put out, and they kept seeding it, and it kept growing over the last several years. Because as soon as someone awakens now, to the degree that they start getting caught up on what it is that is wrong, well, they advance very rapidly. But then also, we are the option, all that are awakened. And once they come in there, they get, most of the information that they need, which propels them very rapidly forward. So having said that, to the masses, what we call the masses, we call those perhaps what I refer to as the ones not awakened, that do not readily know that everything is corrupt to the highest levels that it is. But as we do, and what all of us are doing as an expanding unified team, is getting that truth out, that they can look at it. So anyone awakening now has access to a very huge and broad database of all the information that you can wish. And a lot of that is also beginning to leak into the mainstream media, because the mainstream medias now do not have a choice. If they are going to exist for a little while in the futures, they have to report the truth to the public. If not, any journalist at CNN or what have you, during this transition to come, for them not speaking the truth and actually lying, they're putting themselves individually into a place of jeopardy. And within the news media, once any news media know that they may be partisan to an ongoing crime, it then becomes an individual responsibility to stay employed there or not. So once they know that their employer may be criminal, but they chose to keep their job, that shows that they chose to support this, that they are in collusion with their employer to keep committing fraud and deceit to the public interest, which then turns into much bigger crimes that are supposed to be, they are provisioned within international laws as well. So, you know, there are choices that are being made by the huge medias and also the ones that made up these international laws. You know, either they employ the international laws and do what is correct, or if they don't, then it collapses the international law as well and shows that it's not foundationed on any integrity. So then that has to implode as well. So it's very cool. Yeah, what's happening, you know, so much at once with it.
Yeah. Did you, well, with that, you want to touch on, because I have one, I want to ask you about the RVs and stuff, but did you want to touch on the alternative news about the Google and the fake news is being censored? I know you did a little bit just now.
Yeah.
But you wanted to share some of that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so with the viewers, you know, most of your viewers there are well aware of the censorship that's been going on. You know, you saw on some of the fake news channels like CNN, you know, saying that Facebook is censoring the fake news, that, you know, Google was censoring fake news. But what we actually saw is that, you know, they had to rescind some of their censorship along with YouTube. If they are to exist in the future, they will need to rescind. But here's the good news. If they don't, what we have, and I just put the post out on my timeline, what we have is this alternative news, which is growing. It's a conglomerate, and it's growing bigger and bigger, and it's supported by those that are awakened. Yeah. So as more awakened, they are also supporting this alternative news, you know, in energetic form in the least, and some monetary. So what has transpired, what I just put that post out, is that it's showing that we do not need the social media platforms like Google, Facebook, Twitter, what have you, that within our communities, we have the intelligence to the highest degrees, which we can draw on, and the technical wizards to create other platforms if we need them, other social platforms. So this is already occurring, but this recent meeting, you know, was only the initiative to that just currently happened in Houston, where some of the alternative media heads, you know, got together to get a strategy and a think tank on keep expanding this. It cannot be censored. These are the alternative news sources, because they had to be formed divinely and by the people which are divine to stamp out the big medias that were controlled by the money, and to get the truth to the people, because the truth to the people is this ascension which facilitates our change into the new, where none of this we need to contend with in the future. So we are in the transitional periods again with that. With divinity, I will say that we are fully supported, and that we can even bring things out of thin air if required. This ascension is ascertained. Nothing stops it. We are transitioning humanity as smoothly as we can and incrementally. And it is a transitional process with it. And again, having said that, everything we need to make it a smooth transition, to get humanity caught up where they should be in the universe, we have that at our fingertips. So
So,
everything is very,
oh, go ahead.
no, I'm done. I'd like to hear your question.
So with that being said, on this transition, because we talked about a little bit, we've talked about the RVs, and so and if the money is going away, um, there's going to be a transitional period between the dollar bill and this RV. And what else? We talked about the quantum financial system. Can we talk a little bit about that? This transitional period.
Yeah, we can. You know, I don't consciously know everything here, and I don't tend to speculate, but I do follow the divine messages I receive, and when Father says something, uh, I do listen to it. And what I've been saying previous, you know, prior to about 2 weeks ago, is I was saying we may enjoy these timelines of a reset of currencies, the reevaluation, you know, where you cash in Zim bonds, you know, your dong, your dinar, you know, all of these other currencies that many of the light worker community are holders of. So, you know, that aspect about the reset of currencies and the humanitarian projects that will arise. What I had used in the past, I would say, because I was not concretely given, that it may be a possibility. But what I'm sharing with your viewers now is that Father's telling me that it is part of our reality here in the future. It is coming. It is imminent. Father's not given a time, but he is saying that it is her is saying that it is very, very soon in that respect. But also, having said this, you know, this quantum financial system, which is essentially, you know, a funding, a financial funding for each one that have risen in their energetics to be part of that reality, that is also there. But it is, let's say it's there now, and we also transition into that. I'm not given how long that it will take, but what I'm given is that things keep speeding up here exponentially. So I know that with every day passing, we are getting very close to that. And right in this very time, I will say with the viewers, Linda, that what Father's given me and what I feel that, you know, we could wake up in the morning and, you know, the redemption process of these bonds could be the global thing. It could be the big news. We are that close because everything in reality, there was nothing ever really to stop it other than the ones enough being awakened and enough of the prerequisites being set up upon the planet to accommodate a swift change in the financial systems and in such a way to weed out the government corruptions and the elitist corruptions that was there. You're not going to have divinity put in a temporary financial system for humanity. And when I say divinity, the galactics play a big role in this as well, which I should be including in our discussions. We're not going to put in a system that we got to sit here and babysit. We are putting in a system that is going to be secure to allow humanity to transition out of the way of the requirement for money. And having said that, we are not leaving bankers and elitists and the greed have any control over that money. So at the same time, you're seeing all of these come down, all of the elitists, the ones that really controlled the world here. Some of you notice them, call them as the 12 families or what have you.
Yes.
Well, these are the ones that are coming down, and they have been coming down. And in actuality, they are already down because the straws are here to break the camel's back, if you will. In a second, it can occur as well. So we are that close to it.
So with that being said, you know, you talk about we, not the government, and the corruption. What's your thoughts on if people what's your thoughts on if people were to not pay their credit cards, not, you know, feed into all of that? Do you think by doing that, we're still keeping that intact?
Yeah, great point, Linda. You know, from most of us, you know, the energetic community and the sentient ones, yeah, you know, we are at a point that we know what we pay attention to, that we actually energize it and keep it into existence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but we also know that debt is an illusion, and that we also know, you know, there's been huge injustices put upon each one of you, you know, because of, let's say, the simple reason that you existed in human form. They made sort of a play blueprint that they could print so much money off of you. And, you know, if you're, perhaps they say, well, each one on the planet, you know, perhaps we're going to put a price tag on their head and say that each one is worth 100 million. But if you look at that very quickly, that's what they place your value as for their system. But do you actually ever get that in your entire life? No. They only ever give you the bare minimum, and, you know, what they say they create is for your benefit is not. They rob you constantly. So it does not matter whatever way you look at it. You see that it's designed for the benefit of something that was higher up, which was the elitists that actually controls the government. The governments are actually just puppets, you know, for the elitists. That was the big control, and those were the first ones we began to bring down. We don't bring down the foundation of that pyramid. We start at the top. You're most effective. You take out, same as, you know, some might relate to this, to a gang fight. You take out the leader first, and the rest of the gang, a lot of times, will back away. So, yeah, you give it your best shot, and that's the way divinity works, and taking down, you know, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and all of this.
Yeah.
What you will have is that the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and you'll see things out, you know, that they're still there, that they'll try to put it out to keep that thought going that they are. Because if they can make you think that they're still there and in control, you are actually, you're assisting them and energizing them. So don't do it. No. Know that the new kid on the block is the head of honcho. That's dad and mom.
That's right. Yes. And then what about going back to the RVs? You know, there's talk of the 800 numbers and all that kind of stuff, like if for the Zims and all, for the Zims, because the dinar and the dong and all that, I believe that's straight up cash. But the Zims, because I have those, they're much different. And I know we've talked about that system is all set up.
Yes, those systems are set up, and you know what I'm seeing, I do get my information from the ground here, the information to gauge how things is coming along, and what I'm seeing in that community, you know, where that intel is at, is that I believe, again, they are saying it's very close in that respect. Linda?
Yes.
We don't usually do this, I know, but if this is Tony, who I believe it is, he is very informative. He asked if he could come in here just a couple moments ago.
Oh, did he? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, if this is tied in about this financial system, Tony, if you wish to come in right on this topic we're on now about the reset, and if you feel good with it, Linda, would you?
Yeah.
Tony come in, perhaps?
Yeah, I've opened
Thank you very
mic.
much. Much obliged. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, Rick. Hi, Linda. Yeah, Rick is very right in what he's saying, and everything he said is bang on. And as regards, as you were saying there, Linda, about the Zim, yeah, the Zim is a different exchange because it's to do with the massive projects for infrastructure and all the other projects. And it's backed up by the Zimbabwe's minerals, which is quite substantial, and other assets as well. And you were also asking the question on the other currencies. Yeah, there will be exchange on the other currencies, and what will happen on each exchange, there will be a limited amount of cash. I think it's 10,000, just say in dollars, $10,000 that you receive at your exchange, and then the rest then will what the actual funds will be you'll be updated on the new system, on the new quantum financial system. And basically what will happen is the confidence of the global markets will tend to rush towards the quantum financial system, the blockchain and everything else, because it's backed up by gold currency. And Trump will be announcing that shortly. So the shutdown is based on the national law being implemented. And we're hoping that it's going to be as quick as possible. And like Rick said, it could be in the morning. We're going to wake up and everything's signed and everything's done. But also, they might bypass the national law and we might get paid out. Now, I don't think that's going to happen because Heavenly Father says no one gets a penny until the man on the street gets it. So that's basically until the funds are completely secured and ready to go, distribute to all of humanity. And then we go to exchange and everything else. But as far as we know, and that what we're told is that the GCR has to be implemented in the United States first. Mm-hmm. After that, then the quantum financial system and the gold dollar, the gold-backed dollar will be implemented. And all what's going on now, sorry, Tony,
question. Yeah. The GCR, are you meaning GESARA and NESARA, these sort as well? Is this connected to this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's all in one, the same.
Yeah, the 209 countries signed up for it. It's in the Paris Agreement, climate change. The whole of, like you were saying, Rick, is really due down to mischief bankers and they're coming up with all sorts of ideas to stall everything. And because the new free will has been changed, and the leaders know, and like you say, Rick, the Palladians are here now. They've landed when they closed down Heathrow and Gatwick. Gatwick was because some of them were being moved to other parts of the world. That's why they closed down Gatwick for a couple of hours. But the main closure in Heathrow was when they were all coming in to land, and they were taken to several locations. So they will be overseeing the necessary things, because the UK is not actually NASTRA compliant right now. So what the information that we got was that the countries that are not NASTRA compliant at the moment they're not going to wait for them. They're going to go ahead with it. And if they don't comply, well, then they'll be left out, meaning that they'd have to borrow money. So that's the information we've been given so far. So like Rick was saying, it could be any moment in the now time frame that we're in. So it's all good news. It's all great news, actually. And we're all on the edge of our seats, really, to be honest, because it's all happening. It's all synchronizing at the same time all over the world. And it's an amazing thing to see. It's absolutely amazing, So, yeah.
Tony,
Tony.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Tony, you know, I'd love to hear everything with us, and it's so important. And I just thought, what about you and Linda doing a show in the very near future? Because, yeah, you have all the info on that, whereas I'm only generally informed. But you go more in
Yeah,
depth.
well, I don't know if I'm lucky or whatever, but we were given from the council, we were given direct instructions of the complete plan many years ago and how it's exactly going to unfold in every aspect. First, like we were dawned on it, you know, we were like, is this really going to happen like this? Yeah, it's going to happen like that. And of course, as we were, you know, um, forming from a human being into a galactic human being and learning everything that we had to learn, took us 5 years to get it all in. And here it is, playing all out.
Yeah. So Tony, I have a question on the 800 numbers, because you know the Zims are different, as you were mentioning as well, that they're different than the Dong and the Dinar.
Yeah.
But everybody's supposed there's this whole place you're supposed to call to get the 800 numbers. I mean, I've seen different things from different people that I'm connected to, you know, so it's kind of confusing. So will there be 800 numbers that you have to, or will, from what Rick and I talked about before, there's just going to be, it's going to be very simple. They know who has the serial numbers of the bonds. They will get in contact with us. That's a question.
Well, there was the 800 numbers going to be distributed in the way that you said, but they were being filtered with corruption under that system that came in and had to be sorted because they were trying to filter in, they were trying to, because they were sort of integrated into everything, you know, on what's been going on. And they have their AI, but that's all being broken down now. That's all being fixed. Everything is being properly implemented the way it should be. The new AI system is already in place and it's integrated. There were the big flashes that you were seeing all over the world. They were integrating the 5D grid into the actual transformers. And basically, you know, they were never going to announce Nostra Law because it's been implemented since 2000, but it's never been enforced, and they've done everything to hide it, and to destroy it, basically, to get rid of it, to try and get rid of the money. So in the sense of create wars all over the world and destroy everything, and make people lost so they'd never know the divine beings. So it's really good news. We're really like at the edge of everything coming into play and being announced all over the world.
Yeah, so there's really nothing for anybody to really be concerned about as far as the 800 numbers and all that. It's all going to fall into place as it was designed to fall into place.
Well, the 800 numbers, the 800 numbers have been changed in a way because you know, all the divine beings that has currency and all that, you're recognized by your signature and your DNA.
Okay.
You're not recognized by your name, you're not recognized by your email, you're not recognized by any of that by the galactics. You're recognized by your energetic signature.
Okay.
And you know, when all this kicks in, all the angels will be upgraded telepathically, and they will be connected directly to their mission. They'll know exactly what to do.
Okay.
Yeah. If I may interrupt, Tony.
Yeah.
Some have been experiencing scan-like procedures to the physical vessels. This is also connected with what Tony is saying. And the last bit of info that I divinely received from this is that you are all knowing where you are located upon the surface, the holders of these bonds as well. So you will be contacted. You do not need to, let's say, search for where you will be contacted. You will be contacted and given the instruction.
Okay.
So there's no
Absolutely, Rick. Yeah, he's bang on there. You know,
Okay.
we're all placed globally, very Pacific, placed in a way where we can do this. You know, all these sender masters like Rick and everybody, they're all very well trained for thousands and thousands of years. You know, they know exactly what to do. So it's just fantastic. It's amazing. I mean, we've been doing this for years.
Well, I know
And
that the Zims people have been trying, talking about it for a long time, 7, 8 years, or something like that.
Oh, much longer than that.
Is it okay? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, probably a lot longer.
No, it's a big operation, and it's not just on Earth. You know, it's the actual universe. Because the sorry, it's my voice is going there. Hold on a second.
Okay.
No, it's great.
Yeah,
no,
sorry,
we had to bring
it's
more
late.
in. Oh, sorry, Tony.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
No, just saying
Yeah.
go ahead.
What I received, I'll just make a quick sentence, and I love listening to you as well. What I received is that it kept getting prolonged and prolonged because of the resistance, and what we kept doing was bringing more and more in, and also some galactic effects to keep things tweaked up. But it has prolonged a little bit longer than galactically anticipated.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're dead right there, Rick. Absolutely bang on. But sure, once we get it at the end of the day, that's the most important,
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome,
yeah,
indeed.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Welcome,
Tony. Greatly appreciate it. Hey, if you want to do a show, let's do it. Love you.
Yeah, we did a show the last time, remember?
Yeah, we did. We did it on. So I don't know if there's any updates on it, but that's why, Rick and I are doing the show tonight to kind of talk to people. We'll open up to Q&A because I'm sure there's a lot of people. I know Rick Wolf has a question, so there's a lot of people who have questions, I'm sure, out there about this whole thing. So we might have to bring you, if it's okay with Rick.
I wish to take a break on Friday, so within the next 24 hours, Tony. That would be perfect.
No,
oh, absolutely, yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's.
You can't take a break. Hey, we're going on strong, Rick. We're going on the 5th day. We got to keep this party rolling.
What I was going to suggest, our next show may be the Divine Gifts. What I would like is perhaps a day to prepare that.
Yes.
And, I was thinking that earlier today, and, divinely, here Tony pops up,
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you see, we will be receiving our divine gifts, and as we receive these gifts,
Yeah.
money is no use to us. We'll be able to manifest what we want.
Yeah.
Instantly. These gifts are, we're royal beings from the company of heaven. It's not something new to us. It's just something that we have forgotten.
Yeah.
And we have been lied to for so long and cheated, but again, at the same time, it's just a game, really. These the darkness can only reside in the 4th dimensional realms, and the beings that are from the company of heaven and expanding outwards to the other solar systems, which is the alliance of 52 solar systems together. It's huge. It's absolutely massive, and it's a massive event.
Yeah.
We like the amount of visitors here to watch the event is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. There's trillions of ships just watching the event.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everything else from the Astra Command, Lord Sanandra, Lord Astra, Mother and Father, the whole company of heaven is here. And as well as that, as well as Rick, the company of heaven, from the point of view of Lord Sanandra, Saint Germain, Archangel Michael, and the rest of the archangels, and the rest of the company of heaven, and the angels, are all here in physical human form, just like Rick.
Yeah.
And as the event approaches, we'll all be taken up in the ship If the ship can't land, it'll zoom you from your bedroom or wherever you are. And we will go and meet the first people we will meet will be our family from here. And then we will meet our star family and other nations. We'll be greeted by them. And then we'll be taking a little rest. And then we'll be escorted to New Jerusalem. And there we will reside in our chambers where we came from. And when we go into the crystal chambers, we will heal, and we'll crystalline, and we will be whatever age we want to be, young, old, or whatever. And our divine self will actually descend into our body. We will become from carbon to crystal liquid. And that's when we become gods walking on earth instead of on the New Jerusalem.
Yeah. Wow.
So that day is coming very shortly. So it's
Exciting.
a lot to look forward to. It's very exciting times.
Yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah.
talk to you, Tony, about doing a show. Maybe we can do something. So that sounds wonderful. And
Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Greatly appreciate it. Beautiful.
You're welcome. Lovely to listen to Rick. I love listening to Rick. He's bang on, you
Yes.
know, and it's great to share, you know.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes. So much love. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, Rick, go ahead. Take over.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you, brother. Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Again, you know, I believe if Tony's up to it, but hey, we'll keep going too, girl. Okay,
Yes.
you're the host. Okay, what's up? What's next?
Yeah, so I think we pretty much covered everything. Tony, really, that was so awesome. Thank you again, Tony, for that. Again, I'm sure a lot of viewers have questions. Yeah, that was awesome. And really, the both of you guys just really had so much to bring in there. So that was great. I only have the only last thing I have on my list is you wanted to say a little bit about what you did talk about the people that are being targeted. I don't know, because we're going to have a show eventually on that, but if you want to touch a little bit on that before we dive into question and answers.
No, again, I'm with you, Linda. You're always bang on to what we should do, you know.
Okay.
And I love this. We're you know, we're so efficient as a global team, you know, everyone, right?
Yes.
But having said that, you know, many, if I'll just make a general statement or so again, without rambling, that many, well, ones that are watching this now, many of you were targeted, yes. And, you know, it was quite a very dark journey during that time when you were targeted. But having said that, you know that you were always protected, even though you were disconnected from source. You thought you never were. And for many of you, it's part of your experience to get in there, like my own. I did not awaken until I was severely targeted, and I was broken down fully, that, you know, I surrendered and to the targeting. Well, I didn't really surrender, no, because
You were
I
still
said I
fighting.
had one option left, and that is to find out if God is real. And
He showed
that,
you.
yeah, I didn't give up. I said, no, I got an option left. I got to find out, you know, if the big guy is real. And but having said that, many of you were targeted. We cannot be killed. We're totally protected. The Galactics are here. I could share so many stories with you. Let me say, I could not give you, with these stories, actual evidence or documentation, but I don't need that, because many more of you are knowing that you are seeing the ships with your own eyes. You know it's real. And you know, we hear so many accredited sources as well speaking about the ships are real and these sort of things. So you are always protected with that. Any of you that were targeted, I suggest to know, as you know, that it happened for very good, important reasons, and we keep powering on here, creating the new. So any of your targeting from the past, it was again for experience and for to garner knowledge. Some of you went deep, infiltrated into systematic governments and law, and also into the elitist. And you know that you were planted in there divinely by your own soul contract and in conjunction with the divine plan. Some of you were subjugated to the sex trade, the sex slavery, into the pedophile rings, into the satanic cults. Many of you got in there, you know, to get all of the information to bring it out at this time. You were never alone. You are part of this team to present everything to the masses, which is the truth. So there was a total divine design for everything that occurred with you. And we are at the time, for those of you now that realize that it was very important because it pertained to your missions and your actual life purpose here, to gather this important intel inside, so you could look at yourself as, yeah, being a spy, which you were a divine spy to go in and get the goods, you know, on the bad guys, to reveal them and disclose them for what they are at this time. So having said that, many of you have done that part of your mission. You have the goods. You are fully protected. You know, over the last several months, I have seen more than several instances of ones of you stepping more out of the closet with the information, and, you know, in a divine, timely manner, which is very good as well. And I'm also seeing, as a general observation, because I do keep track of what's going on globally. As I said, I am an overseer of the Ascension, and I do see popping up more individual testimonies here and there about injustices they endured, and speaking about you know, the actual truth about secret societies and their controlling and enslaving efforts upon the humanity. Yeah. So no stone goes unturned upon the planet. And as you know, the Vatican being imploded and exposed for what it really was a huge success by the overall light community. And there were many facets and many groups that enjoyed that mission of exposing them, and it is globally, and, you know, showing exactly the truth of the matters to the public. So we are at this great time where we have all, you know, we have more than enough goodies out here online for anyone awakening, that if they need to see documentation, you know, it is here for them. There is more than enough. We have crossed the pivot point a long time ago with this. So having said that, anyone awakening, you know, if they're divine, a part of their divine experience here is to dig into that and to accreditate it for themselves. There's more than enough there to do it, and they will very quickly rise above that and, you know, assist perhaps one of their friends that's awakening as well. So
awesome.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Rick. There you go. So let's open up to question and answer. You ready? Okay, Q&A.
Yeah, I'm ready.
If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and post your questions on the group chat, and then I will open up your mic to Tony. Is it okay if do you want to bring Tony if they have a question for Tony, Rick?
Oh, indeed, yeah. We're all a group here. Whatever
Okay.
works, great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, totally.
So Tony, if
Tony,
anybody, if you have a question,
he's awesome.
Rick or Tony, let me know. And if Tony, if it's okay with you, I can open you up to the mic as well. So if you want to.
Yes, indeed. No problem there. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Let's see. So you guys, if you have a question, go ahead and pop your question on there.
I have one for Tony, if I may, while you're waiting, Linda. A
Yeah,
quick one.
please. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Tony, I just wish to ask because this come up. You know, with some of us that have considerable savings, let's say at this time in a bank institution, what's going to happen to those savings? Say if I have $1 million in financial institutions with this new, with the new system, is that money still going to be accessible? Is it still worth its value?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now there will be a slight as the reevaluation of currencies happens, there will be a docking, if you like, on the English pound and the strong currencies, and the weaker currencies will come up to level with the other currencies, which will give it an even playing field. But at the same time, any individual that has currency in a bank account, and when the system goes down and the banks collaborate, the ones that are going to be changed into treasuries, all your accounts on the ledger will be put onto the blockchain, which it already is, which is in the quantum financial system. So all your accounts will be transferred over into the new system, and as it shuts down and reopens again, everything will be there, but it'll be under gold-backed tokens, exchange in that type of currency under the cryptocurrency system. So yeah, your money will be there.
Great. So what I just received in this, Tony, I believe we got to reset the American currency as well to $1, meaning that anyone in the U.S., if they have $1 million in the bank, it will be equal to 1 million. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be the total reset of currencies globally, bringing everyone to the same face value of the dollar.
So I have a question. So if you have $500,000 in the bank, but if we go away from dollars and the banks are going to change institutions, right? I mean, they're going to be something else. So you would.
Yeah, but it's a bit like, I know for the Americans, they've never experienced the currency, in their lifetime, but a dollar. But in other countries, especially in Europe and other countries, they've changed the currencies many times.
Oh.
So in the beginning, it's a bit of confusion in a sense.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, they start to work out the difference in currency by calculating in their old currency to try and make up what it is they have. But the new system will be so simplified.
Okay.
It'll be so easy to use for anybody because your thought sense will be connected with it as well, and it'll be interacting with the fiat currency for the moment of time, but eventually it'll fade out quickly, because people will eventually have no use for paper money.
Okay.
Yeah. So there'll be no currency exchange rates as part of the transition. We're putting everything reset to $1 par value with all of the currencies.
Okay. We do have a question. Rhonda, I don't know if this is for Tony, or both of you guys can answer it actually, or Rick, whichever one you guys want. What will happen to these millennials? I'm talking about teens today, the ones that don't want to do anything but game. Is there going to be a purpose for these kids? I'm a teenage mom wondering about these kids. You say they're smarter than us.
If I may, I'll answer this quickly, Tony. What you'll see is your children will very quickly transition to the new world. So, but if they're playing games every day now, that's great for them. That is not, don't preconceive that that'll be in their futures. They will change. Everything changes in accordance with the overall energetics. And you may wake up in the morning and say, one of your teenage children come to you and say, oh, I no longer want to play them games. I'm going out for a walk in the woods. So just bear with it till it occurs. It doesn't keep going.
Rhonda, I have you on mute if you have a question for Rick.
No, that's good. I just really wondered what's going to happen to these kids today, because I'm a teacher too, and I don't know what's going to happen to them in the future. I think
Yeah,
some of them, they seem quite hopeless, and they're not interested in anything in the world.
Rhonda, Tony's going to step in and give you some.
Yeah, so the new generation growing up, you know, they're very, very advanced, and a lot of them are keeping silent in their advancements. But the main event of currencies and revelations of currencies and the big money spending and all that is really based on creativity, for everybody to be able to express their creativity.
Yes.
And the more they're able to the more they're able to have access to be able to express their creativity, you're going to see an amazing world being developed. Absolutely amazing world. And also the technology we brought in. You know, we're here to enjoy ourselves. We're here to experience life. We're not here to work 24/7 and to have a roof over our head, to have bread on our table. That's wasn't never intended to live the life of a human being and experience the physical form of it, you know. So don't worry about the kids. The kids will be just fine.
All right, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
If I may, Ron,
Yeah.
what you're, you know, in the beginning, and you're probably already witnessing this as a teacher, you will see the curriculum begin to change to more encompass the new age as well, very rapidly. Schools will not be the way that they are now, and there are also also beginning to transition to accommodate this. They must, or go out of existence the way they were.
Good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Linda, when you say all accounts, does that include RRSPs in Canada? That's Linda. So I'm going to unmute you, Linda, and then you guys can have a go at it.
Oh, that'll be Rick. Rick, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll just be quiet and listen. I probably heard the answer to this before, but.
Okay, thanks, Linda. So if you're not divinely guided personally to do something with your accounts, your RRSPs in Canada, your 401k, if you're not divinely guided to do something with it, then you just leave it where it's at. And, you know, as we just, Tony agreed on this, that and gave us, you know, the information that what you have in your present accounts will be transferred into the new system. So to say that alleviates fear anyone may have with that as we transition this. But now there is another important thing that is playing out. There are individuals that are divinely guided and instructed to take their money out of certain areas. So having said that, what they receive is correct. That is their divine guidance. They must follow that. For anyone that does not receive divine guidance or intuition, which resonates to take money out, then I suggest you leave it in. If you need to take money out of any of your financial institutions, you will receive an impulse, a divine message or a thought or an intuition to do so. And if you do, you will be instructed on a let's say you will be instructed on a need to know basis of when to do it and how much. And earlier today I had this discussion with another powerful divine comrade. She received instruction on to withdraw some funds out, and with that at this time she does not know why she divinely received it. I am not readily given the forward information as to why, other than I immediately recognized that she was divinely instructed to do this for a divine reason in the future that we don't know. So some of you are being divinely guided right to yourself to do this. So if you are, do it. If not, don't do it. And that's not saying that things could not change in a day or so. You may receive guidance to take it out, but you only act in the now on the guidance that you receive. No one can physically, or let me say, no one can tell you what to do with this. You need to rely fully and trust on your heart, your intuition, and your connection straight to the higher realms, or God, or those higher aspects.
Does that are you good with that, Linda? Are you there?
Yeah, yes, thank you
Okay,
very
yeah.
much.
You're welcome.
Main thing, have no fear. You'll be guided. If you got to take money out, you'll be guided to do it. Have no fear.
I know,
with this.
I
We
am.
don't want anyone worrying and getting in a panic. We teach that you just have no fear. You live in the now moment. If you receive a message in the now moment to do something the next day, then you do it. If you don't receive the message in whatever way or the signs, you don't do it. So have no worry, have no panic, no fear, and just keep going with it. Everything's fine.
Oh, panic was temporary.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Rick says he's on Social Security. Yeah, that's a good question. What about pensions and, excuse me, Social Security?
But those things will continue on as well. And as Tony says, when we put in these new systems, you'll be supplemented in, these sort of things. It's all assured that everyone is taken care of. And Tony made a most very important point that I wish to reiterate. It was ascertained, it is ascertained that those on the street are going to be accommodated as well with this first pass. So they will be taken care of. So that means any homeless person up the levels, if you will, the ones on pensions and what have you, they're all going to be accommodated. It's not going to be a whole bunch of ones receiving a whole bunch of cash, and it's not going to be like that. Everyone's going to be, it's ascertained, everyone's going to be taken care of. All you need to know until we get there is you have the bare necessities that you need, just to get you there now for the ones that are in these lower levels. So you have enough in this now. Providence is here, and it will be. And as many of the viewers know, and I know a lot that I have assisted in the teachings, that among the like community, there is so many that that have been hit down there with no money, but hey, you're all still here, and you see that sometimes, even out of the blue, there's been some of you would go in your bank account which had zero. You would just go in and check, and miraculously there's $200 there that come out of nowhere, no sender. You don't know where it comes. Well, it comes from divinity. So having said this, have no fear. You are always provided for in every respect with that.
Rick, I'm going to unmute you. If you have any questions, you have anything for Rick? Rick and Rick?
No, I have no fear. In 2005, I knew that it was time for me to get out of the system. I had a massive brain damage in 1980, and so I've been to the doctors millions of times, it seems like, and I knew that once it was time for me to leave the system, they would let me go, and they put me on Social Security, and I've been divinely taken care of. It seems like ever since then, so I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, we know now that there was a, more of a reason why everything happened. Indeed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Thank you,
Okay,
Rick.
thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thanks,
Rick. All right, I'm gonna mute you back. Okay, next question is from Kayla. Is this a QFS complete game changer for all of humanity? No exceptions? There's a couple questions here, so Tony, you might be able to jive in here too. Let me find Tony here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a big game changer. Everybody will receive an unconditional basic income. Each country has a quota for each GDP of the income of each person. So everybody's looked after, and there's also many other beautiful things to come as well that'll be introduced to humanity that we've been suppressed to access. So it's just going to be amazing. And for the angels and the ones that are awakening in every sense, you're all protected, 100% protected. You have the company of heaven at your back, watching every single moment of everything. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about except be in joy. And that child of your inner self, bring it out and have fun.
Yeah, we go for
Thank you.
dragon rides, huh, Sharon?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she said, "Is this a global change?" It is a global change, correct? What you're saying, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because she's saying, "I'm thinking of family members who are completely unaware of anything of this following the belief that we create our own realities," which is true.
Most of the humanity is completely unaware
Yeah.
of the real change that's going to take place.
Yeah. I'm gonna
But
unmute.
we needed a certain quotient to attain this, and as I said, the beginnings of that quotient was attained in 2012 to activate and seed these future timelines. Not everyone is restricted to these lower timelines we are setting up, like the QFS. There are some of us that are moving on beyond those timelines. It's part of our, you could say it's part of our reward that we are no longer restricted to these lower dimensions. And that's also why for some of us these human vessels are being upgraded constantly to go into the different places. So I just wish to add, Tony, that not all of us
right there,
will be
yeah.
staying there. I am one.
Rick is dying. Oh, you're staying, Rick. Is that what you said?
He's
No,
not
I'm
saying.
not. No.
He's out of here. He's out of here.
Yeah,
Not yet.
we'll all be
There
out
you go.
here. We'll all be out here. We'll all transcend onto the
Yeah.
ships, and we'll be glorified, and we'll come back down to just do a few more things, and then we'll have open contracts to do what we want.
Awesome. Kayla, I've got you unmuted if you want to ask Tony or Rick anything.
Hi, you guys. It's Kalia, actually. Hi, Rick.
Okay.
Hey, girl.
Yeah. Woo! I'm so excited. Thank you all. This just really is amazing, and it confirms several messages I've received in the past about going up in the ships and being reset. And then tonight, Archangel Michael came in, and I channeled a message to tell everybody to, just emanate peace, and love, and know this is all going to be okay. So all I have to say is thank you, guys. This information is amazing, and I'm so excited, and I can't wait. The reason why I was motivated to ask that question is because my parents are very entrenched in 3D and very money-wise, and they'll probably freak out when this happens. So, but I know I'll be guided to assist them, and help them ease through it all. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah.
Well, You know, Kalia, you may be pleasantly surprised because, you know, as Tony says, and what I also say, what is going to be offered is really something beyond and much more magnificent what is here now. So uh, no one really will be freaking out. The thing is, it's the transition and getting everything prepared so that the populace more easily slides into it, that it's not a chaotic shock effect. And
Yes.
this is why it had to be meticulously toned up and tweaked up many times. And it's also, again, you know, why the Galactics are here, as you're well aware of, Kalia, because you are in contact with that aspect. And that is, yeah, that is why they are here as well, to assure that. And as I say, the Galactics are other aspects of ourselves that for what we are, many of us can transcend at this time all space, and not all space and time, but let's say a lot more than what you could when you were human.
Yeah, beautiful. So exciting.
Wonderful.
Yay. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kalia.
Thank you.
Okay, then Deb just said that's what she wanted to know, was everyone be taken care of, because many have lost jobs and are trying to make it. So I think you guys pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the near future, none of that will matter. Like, I mean, for instance, you're seeing in the U.S. some of the propaganda about, oh, Trump's bad, you know, about all these workers not getting their checks. But if you actually look, they have shelter and they have enough food. They're all taken care of, and I believe you'll see, you know, that there's the compassion of their friends and families are ascertaining that as well. Why they are making a ruckus is because they do not know what the future contains for them, and they are in a state of fear because of that. But if they would stop and look at it, they know that they have everything they need in that moment. And and again, you know, no one is ever in any harm with us.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. You're right there. And also, they have a 90-day credit in all their credit cards, and most of them, 90%, 95% of them, use their credit cards on their daily expenses. So they have 90-day credit on that. So they're not losing anything. All of that is a show that's going on with the Democrats.
It's a game, yeah. So Deb, I have you unmuted. If you just, I know it wasn't really a question, but if you want to ask either Rick or Tony a question, I can definitely. You're open.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was answered. It was answered. I was just
Sorry.
wondering about how that was going to work.
Okay.
I didn't quite hear that. What was the question? What was Deb wondering how things were going to work?
I was just wondering about, you were talking about like the people that had that money in the bank and they would be okay. But I was concerned over the people that didn't have money in the bank, and, you know, how they were going to, because down here where I live, there's a lot of homeless people.
You know, as Tony mentioned, Deb, everyone is going to be taken care of right from the smallest levels up there with us. So, you know, everyone survived up to this point with it that's supposed to be on these timelines with us, and it will be it is assured and ascertained going into these immediate futures that they are taken care of, you know, in respect with the new monetary systems. So it's you know, it's a wait time, and what I'm given as I share, I'm only given it's close. I cannot give you an exact date, but it could happen in the blink of an eye. It could happen within a few months. But meanwhile, you know, having said that, everyone is always taken care of in that respect. And, you know, if you do see a homeless person, let's say what you would call die or something, you need to, it is good to quickly look at, you know, what their soul contract was that they might have chose to ascend through the death process. And, you know, just several nights ago in relation to this, I put out a beautiful man that, you know, he was a homeless man, and he had wrote up, you know, that he had, what happened to him in society, you know, was kind of not correct. He didn't say what it was. It was not just what occurred, but, you know, he left. But the thing is, look at the legacy that he left behind. It was part of his soul contract to ascend, but, you know, to contribute and leave behind for the other people more things that needed to be changed. And again, for I to come across that another angel had posted, it was not by chance, but to show this. But in reality, I must speak my truth. There is no death. That is only a human perception that is part of a veil to not open you up to your higher divinity. That was in the past. But since 2012, we are in a higher dimension where things are not like that before. And also, Deb, you know, you can see the transition even through your scientific world. In the minute I'm putting out papers saying we know the consciousness does not die. So that is seeded, you know, it is being seeded into the new timelines, that it'll be accepted by all humanity, that they actually know that when their physical body looks like it dies, that is not the end. They ascertain that the consciousness lives on. But during this ascension, what we are doing, we exist for all time. In reality, there's no time for us. But what we are doing also as part of what you might have heard, the human experiment and experience, we are also doing something that humanity on this linear time never heard of before. We are taking the human vessels into the other dimensions, which is really very fascinating and very real and very incredible. And it's part of the reward of getting out of the mundane too. I'll stop there, but it's beautiful. And yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. Okay, next question. Will the monetary change happen in 2019? Because I know a person who's been waiting for 8 years now, which is when I said something early about that today. It's like, do we have to wait? And that is from J.A.
Yeah. I believe, again, you know, Tony answered that for us, that it is imminent, and that, and, you know, I concur totally with Tony. The information I'm given is that it could happen in the blink of an eye, and that we are very close with it. And Tony, I know he also concurred with that. I'm not giving any date, but what I will say, some of the things I was directed to in the last day or two, some of the signs seems to be indicating that, you know, it could happen in a matter of days here now. So having said that, we are very close. I'm not given a definite date nor time, again, other than we are very close. And when I say very close, within months is what I'm given. I wish to say, you know, and I said this on the show the other night, what I'm given is by the end of March, we are going to be transitioned in a very much higher place. And Tony, I would wish your comment on what I just said, please. Thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Rick. You're bang on there, and we don't have any date either. We don't know this. Nobody knows this, and it's done for a very specific reason. But like Rick says, it could be now, right now as we speak. It could be in 3 months' time, and the transition is going to happen, like Rick says. So it's all good news, guys. It's, you know, it's just time to celebrate more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know most of the people don't really, take it on board until they see it, really, and then they start to dance.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, it's true.
That's been, thanks, Tony. Yeah, you're exactly right. I've been assisting many for several years, and the thing is, with some of them, to get them over that threshold so they believe that, yeah, they need profound things, some of them, to break the conditioning. So they need little miracles or what have you to happen. And just to quickly share, I was assisting one time. I told her to go out in the morning, let me know if you see a rainbow, today. And yeah, she went out, she saw a rainbow, and but she said, it could be just coincidence. And then I had suggested, I said, okay, I'm going to set up a profound light experience for you. And so within a day or so, I guess her towel caught on fire from an LED light. But, again, she just passed it off as being, a coincidence or whatever. So, sometimes, I set up profound things. I'm allowed to do it. It's approved. But, some of the conditioning and the mind control programs that were here upon the planet, it was pretty hard to get into the encryption. And some of what I do when I'm working with those, bringing them out of the mind control programs, is I go right into their mind and I find out what the triggers are. Or if I don't need to, I will provoke them without going in their mind to, let's say, to trigger them to see actually what the triggers are. It's one of the ways I work with them so that we diminish and overcome the triggers. But, it was so cleverly, the MK Ultra and these mind control programs, they so inconspicuously design triggers, like even a flower, a pretty flower would be a trigger to trigger some of these in the mind control programs, to put them in a state of robotics or whatever, or a state of paranoid. And it was very interesting, my work in those areas, working with individuals. Like, for one, there was even a baby carriage that just by mentioning that word, it quickly brainwashed and triggered another program of fear into effect for her. Like, I mean, something just so very harmless. And these are the sort of things that they used. Also, if it was programmed in them that, someone's walking down the street and sees a baby carriage, well, it might put them in a state of fear, run out in the road and get hit by a car. I mean, that's how ridiculous some of their programming was. But they used, on different ones, it was not all the same symbols and objects. They set up different programs for some of these that were in these dense programs with it. Generally, for humanity, as the conditioning, it's, there's energetic imprints upon your TV you watch. On Facebook, they even had them there. It took us a long time to get them diminished, but what they do is they override that energy, which is the conditioning. And more so, with EMFs and power transmissions, what they had intentionally done was negatively charge those as well. And what you had was the empaths becoming stronger and stronger, but they would becoming sicker and sicker. And, then they began to connect the dots. Well, I got huge power lines outside of my house, and, I'm becoming more sensitive as an empath because I'm ascending in to my divine gifts. But here I am coming more sicker, but they were given the information because, even on power lines, there are certain energies that are negatively charged for that effect, because negativity, which is actually fear, keeps one suppressed and in the sick mode. So, you know, these were their ingenious designs and their tactics. And one of the things we had to do, Linda, I believe it might have been a year ago, we had to, as a group, and, you know, I know our viewers, at least some of them recall this, as a group, we did the Angels. We weren't the real Angels then, but as a group, you know, we collectively put our mentality and our energy together, and we directed it back at the source of these negative imprints that were being projected. And what we did in doing that, we disabled 2 Army bases. We didn't know what we were disabling. We did not know where the source was coming from, but the information we got later was 2 Army bases. One went under lockdown, I believe, for a week, and the other was a day or two. They lost all of their computers and everything within there. Nothing would work. But just to, you know, one was in Fort Worth, I believe, and the other one, that was Texas, and the other one was in, I believe it's North Carolina, those 2 bases that we affected. And, you know, again, we never questioned our work, and very quickly, in conjunction with that, working with another very powerful divine comrade, and I always love this. I know I repeated the story, but when we were instructed by Father to take down CERN to stop a certain experiment, well, you know, she remotely went in, she pulled all the wires off, and CERN comes out with a news release, you know, saying that a weasel got in here and chewed wires off.
I remember reading about
You
that.
know, very comical, but
Yeah.
I mean, that is our confirmation. So,
Yeah.
you know, we can do all these divine work, right? And we can, you know, as a collective, when we join our energy thoughts together,
Yeah.
you know, we are, when we stopped the hurricane, you know, we downgrade. We didn't stop it because I had to abort. I got divine orders to abort the mission. But let's say we were allowed to play with that. It was Hurricane Irma, I believe. You know, she was a Category 5. And I was allowed to, with the angels, the ones following me, we were allowed to have an exercise in diminishing that. And, you know, Linda, this is documented for anyone that wished to go back and even got the records. You could see even the forecasters saying, they said, you know, for some reason which really defies meteorology and everything, that the hurricane, it weakened to Category 4, you know. And but you can watch also, we did that. That's the very real effect, you know. And any that was joining in on that experiment, they can tell you and can attest to what I'm saying. Yeah, we did it. And after I got the call, Linda, that I got the divine call to abort, because we had to let the hurricane go and do the destruction that it did. It hit certain areas, let's say certain elitist areas, so it had to cause mass destruction, and that was the divine target. No one was hurt in that, but as soon as we aborted, I put out, we got to abort, take your mind off it, boom, the hurricane went back up to Category 5 and kept moving. But I mean, you know, the immense prowess, this is not imagination, and anyone can go back and look at it. It's documented. You can read it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got rambling again.
Thanks for that. Now, is it J.A. or Ja? Did you want to ask anything to Rick or Tony about the monetary change? Are you there? J.A.? Is it J.A. or Ja? Okay. I don't think so. I'm not asking any questions. Okay. So anybody else have any other questions? Rick had a comment about, he posted a video about his brother being homeless and found $700 in a cell phone, turned it in. He was given $5,000. Wow.
Beautiful story, Rick. Yeah.
Great story. Woo, that was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I can share that I, re- I receive, you know, over the years, stories like that as well, that divine ones in the time of need, as I said, you know, in their bank account, as I mentioned, but also, yeah, just find money beside the road when they need it. And a lot of times it's comical that for some of them, it's just the certain amount that they needed for something to alleviate a a kind of what you would call a bad circumstance. Pick up the money and, you know, look up, okay, you know, thank you.
That's right.
That's so beautiful.
It is. It is. I don't have any other questions on here. Anybody else have any other questions you want to ask Rick or Tony? Put it on the chat and we could, you're welcome. Is it, I don't know if it's J.A. or Job, but you're welcome. There's no other questions right now, Rick or Tony.
Well,
Do you have any other things that you want to comment on?
well, you know, Linda, we started off and, you know, the show pretty good. And what I wish to give is my utmost gratitude and thanks for the timely, divine, timely appearance of Tony as well for the contributions. You know, to the show. Again, it was just so perfect, but it also, you know, shows us how everything is divinely ascertained and assured at these times. And, you know, again, just a total full compliment, as well as having Tony to join us with all of his divine information and knowledge. So always so many good things with that.
Oh, you're making me blush now.
So true, Tony. So true.
But
Thanks
yeah,
very much,
you know,
guys. You're all very welcome.
thank you.
We're all in it together, you know. We're all making this together.
Yes, yes, amen. We are. Yes, absolutely. Well, I don't know, Tony, if you have any last things you want to share that to bring to the viewers, any last words of?
Yeah, just like Rick was saying, you know, about being divinely guided. We're all divinely guided. I mean, I've been working on this since we've been put in the post, and what's it now? It's 8 years full time, and everything comes to me through the door. Don't have to do anything.
Wow.
You know, that's how divinely guided we are. You just have to trust in blind faith.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And go with that, and everything will just work out fine.
Beautiful.
Anyway, we're at the end now. You know, we're at the hard part is all done. Now it's just time to get your dancing shoes on.
Woo! I'm in it. I'm already in it. Just trust me.
Very good.
Thank you.
And it's great listening to you, Rick. You know, you're a massive inspiration. I mean, it's fantastic to do what you're doing. You know, because it's not easy. You know, especially in the beginning. It's not easy, but as time goes on, you know, we build up more knowledge, and it's just amazing to listen to you. It really is absolutely amazing. The whole company of heaven is dancing around like unbelievably. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, you know, it was just reflecting back upon, like, I was ready for a long time, you know, and I kept saying, Dad, I'm ready. And, you know, he kept stalling me. And I recall, you know, when I went out one evening, I said, Dad, you know, I'm ready to proclaim, you know, that, let's say, I am much more than an ascended master. I said, you know, will you please give me a sign? You know, I said, and so I went outdoors, and it was foggy and completely overcast in the night. And what I asked is, I said, give me a star. I said, you know, give me that sign, because, you know, through a dense cloud and a foggy night, to see a star, like, you know, it's virtually impossible. So I said, Dad, give me a sign is it time for me to say what I am, publicly, more or less? This happened a few years ago. And so I went outdoors. I looked up in the sky, and well, I said, I don't see any signs. So I started to walk back towards my camper, and I received the message, look up. So I looked up, and there was the light coming right through the fog and the clouds, like a star that was just stationary, like it was no plane or helicopter or anything, I said, thanks, Dad. Okay, good. And I come in, I went on Facebook, and I put out that I put out something, I'm ascended master, but much more than that. I just forget the exact wording, but I was so happy because, like, I was kind of, a bubble here bursting for a long time, ready for these times, but I was kind of like, I was prepared, but I was kept, out of the scene. So it was quite I've had a lot of humanoid experiences with Father and the angels, and yeah, it gets funny sometimes too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Dad will always play jokes on you. We did get a last question though. If you know if Q is JFK Jr., will it become known with the monetary change? This is from I apologize if I'm messing up the name, Ja or J A.
Yeah, Q is JF Jr. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's an alliance.
Q is an alliance.
No, Q is JFK Jr. is representing Q, but Q is an alliance coordinating from the Galactics and everybody else that's involved.
Okay.
That's what Q is. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. There you go.
I do have some more information, but it's not time to publicly put that out. I was just going to say it, but I was told no. But what I can say is that.
Well, they just stopped me too.
Thank you. Okay, so we got to get off of that subject. Thanks.
Darn. Well, nobody's stopping me, so.
That's funny with this. Yeah, sometimes when I'm insisting of individuals, I'm told to stop. Maybe that occurred with you as well, Linda, but sometimes, others will recognize this. I'll stop sometimes mid-sentence, or I'll say, no, I'm not allowed to say that. Then I got to change the subject.
Yes, that has happened to us. Oh, well, you guys, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Tony, for being on the show and giving.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Linda. Thank you very much for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you. And Rick, it's just always such a pleasure, and it was great hearing your story and such a wealth of information to the viewers. And so, it was just really awesome. So thank you.
Thank you so much as well, Linda, and you and Tony. Like, this show tonight, this is just wow. Again, with Tony's contribution, and woo.
Yeah, we should be able to have record numbers going in at this stage of the game. And
it was powerful. I don't know. I think we're ascending now, guys. I don't know. It just kind of feels like it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, we are always in ascension mode. Yeah.
Yes. So, and everybody's loving the new platform. We've gotten a lot of things. So, John,
it's amazing the languages that's being translated. That's a fantastic idea,
Yeah.
In real time.
Yes, Rick and Garnett did that. That's awesome. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's Garnett did that.
Yes.
He set it up, and much love and respect for him as well.
Yes.
As we said, earlier, Tony, whatever we divinely need to assure our mission here, really we merely have to ask, and that is the same as all of the viewers as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. you need something, if you really need something, yeah, you know, you ask for it, and you keep open for what you would call the universe to deliver it, but it's actually, the universe is divinity, and you are delivered with what you need. For some, you know, deliberately and intentionally, you know, some of you were denied things when you asked for it because, you know, you didn't really get rid of your fear, and you didn't believe, and you had other work you had to do. So if we were to provide for you while you still had negativity and fear, then you would become in a comfort zone where you would not work on your negativity and fear, and you would remain stagnant. So there are methods to everything that happens, and there is reasons for it.
Such a
So,
good
but one, yeah, you know, Guyana, she's one of the angels, and I always love using her as a subject of this certain thing. You know, she just is so amazing, and you know, she kept working on doubts, and negativity. You know, it's a process for us all. I had to go through a certain process, but you know, she would work through it, and her belief and her trust in God outweighed the fears and doubts that she started to be provided for, you know, and she knew that, and others as well. And you know, because also you are the angel that you're not allowed to create when you have negativity and fear in you. That's not where we're going. So that's why you are subjected to, you know, these sort of lessons, to negative experiences and bad experiences, so that you can overcome and master them. So then you get your pure divine gifts that is not tainted. Yeah. Your energy then is not tainted by any darkness nor activity, or any darkness nor negativity. Then you are granted your creation abilities to create much bigger things. Because one thing we're not doing here with this whole ascension, we are creating heaven, if you will. And in heaven, we don't want any negativity or any dark aspects. So you just simply do not get your divine gifts to the creator level when you have negative and darkness still within you, because then everything that you would create where you have negative and darkness in your energetic field would be contaminated with negativity. It would not be pure. So again, that is a reason for you that are allowed to create on much larger levels must have your fields totally mastered, that there is not any negative or darkness that is in there. So you purify your energetic field, but now also you can be purified, and you also can feel negativity, but you know it's not your own. Yeah. So just because you're purified of pure light, that does not mean that you don't feel negativity here. You still need to, but the negativity that you feel is your indication to find out where it's coming from, because this is part of your divine mission to relinquish or eradicate that negativity, be it within another or what have you. So once you have attained such a level that you have eradicated, you have no fear nor negativity, and then when it comes to you, you know it's not yours, but it's part of your gift to identify the source of it, so that you can divinely take it out, so that it's not affecting others as well. And runs on the same sort of principle globally here as purging. Yeah. Am I still on here, Linda?
Yes, you were frozen just for a few minutes there, a few seconds there, but you're still on. We can hear you. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, so it runs along the same process, you know, as purging here, transitioning, transmuting, I guess would be the better term to use. And So this is what you do, and yeah, and but hopefully, you know, the discomforts with that will not be much more. That there will be less transmuting that you will need to do with the energy. You know, there was getting into perhaps a slight energetic, excuse me, update again. There was extensive transmuting of that current energy, as we, you know, we shared the other night, Linda, with currently what was going on, because we were rapidly shifting and ascending upward, that there was a lot of negativity as a residue, a byproduct that had to go somewhere. And what it was delivered back to certain higher ones that were capable of transmuting the most negativity. And, you know, they did a remarkable job with it. And at that time, I was in contact with a couple, you know, that were pretty well bedridden with the negativity. And they're saying, like, what? You know, I thought it was all done with this. But such a huge amount of the negative energy was given to them, you know, to get rid of. And it would not have been given to. You're not given anything you can't handle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Excuse me. Such a great point. Yeah, such a great point. That's so true. Well, you want to touch on anything else? Excuse me.
No, I feel pretty good unless there's some other questions. I got to shut the door for a moment. Be right back.
Okay. No other questions. Kalia, yes. Thank you to all Galactics included. I'm so excited. Yep, exactly. We are. Exciting times ahead. That's for sure. And we will have an update. Well, we'll be doing more shows between now and March because there's a lot of things that'll be happening. So, you know, can we do an update at, you know, at the end of March about what's going on? But we'll be doing many in between now and then. So, yeah.
Actually, Clea, I'm kind of hoping we won't have to do updates then. We'll have it all done. So,
okay, I take that back. Okay, I agree with Rick.
You know, we've come so far so quick in the last few months that nothing stops us now, you know, and let's just keep going forward. And, you know, perhaps even our times on Facebook, doing our interviews on Real Angels, checking in, you know, maybe them times we're getting past that, eh? Which would be great. Then we can go out, you know, and let's say have limitless freedom upon Gaia and go lay on the beach somewhere and relax, eh?
Yes, I know Tony has something to say to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick is bang on, you know, and our attentions that we are expressing tonight has huge implications on what is going on. And this will lead into a much quicker progress, because what we're doing tonight is that we're setting our intentions on this to happen as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a very powerful intention being sent out. So it looks good, guys. Looks very good indeed.
Thank you for that. Oh, that's such a great way to end. Oh, that's so true. Like just all the positivity, all the intention, just in what we want to see, will create. So
absolutely,
make this
yeah.
happen. Yes.
Well, I'd just like to say thanks very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And but it's 20 to 5 in the morning. I'll need to be able to get some sleep.
Yes.
I'll be up early in the morning. So I'll say goodbye to you all, and thanks again.
Thank you. Much love. Thank you,
Thanks,
Tony. Thank you. Well, Rick, as always, again, it's such a pleasure. This was so amazing. It really was.
It is indeed. I'm feeling it here as well. And yeah, I'm just so impressed with tonight's show on so many levels. It is very good.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of people saying the same thing. They love this platform. It was just really great. So It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
And I thank Garnet so much. I see you're still there,
Yeah.
Garnet. And I see, Garnet, that with my speech, I have to pay attention to what Sue said and not ramble and breathe between sentences so the translator picks it up better.
Yeah, I know. I have to get better too. So we're all in a learning process. But hey, like you said, we may not have to do this. We'll just be bam, there we go. Let's rise.
Yep. But we have it all set up and just
Yeah.
keeps expanding however far it's got to go. We're always ready and we're prepared, and
Yeah.
we always divinely have what we need, you know, as a community, as a collective, and yeah, it is really amazing and beautiful. Who would have ever thunk we would be here this, you know, at this time talking about such powerful divine things as we are. I know if I look back before I was awakened, I never thought from the human aspect that I would, you know, ever be doing this, but I didn't know who I was as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting and
Yeah.
very beautiful.
It definitely is. So, yeah. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate it. I know we're gonna have another show at some point. We need to give Rick a rest so he can write up about the divine gifts, but we will be back on. But you can tune in on Monday. I'll be with Janelle Cameron, and so that'll be exciting. And then Sharon Piccola, I believe, will be Wednesday. We're going to confirm that. So some more exciting information. So be sure you guys can tune in on that. So, Rick, love you. Thank you. And I know we'll be tuned in for another show with Rick and I as well. Yeah.
Indeed. If you don't mind, Linda, I'll stay on after you close the
Yes.
show. And we could perhaps
please.
just touch on a couple things. So
That'd be
I
great.
thank everyone. I love you all. And, you know, I know everything you've been through. I've been through a lot of it myself. But, you know, hey, we're coming out of the tunnel right now. So it's very beautiful. And I love you all. And let's keep together, let's keep growing, and nothing stops us, and we keep going forward. So thank you so much, Linda. Special thanks to Garnet again, and Tony, and, you know, all of my divine comrades, you know, every one of you. I thank you so much, and whew, we're doing it. So I love you all. Thank you.
Yes, and it is a pleasure. Thank you, Garnet, for setting this up. It's been amazing, and Tony, again, it was just wonderful to have you on here, and love all of you guys. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and so much love. We feel all of you, and just stay tuned for more to come, and special, always awesome things and awesome people, and love you all. With that, we're all say good night. Love you guys. Bye.